Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is Shontell Smith, partner and head of the New York practice at Tusk Strategies. Shontell, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We are currently sitting right now in day 17 of the government shutdown, and it doesn't look like there's really an end in sight. Democrats are blaming Republicans, Republicans are blaming Democrats, and Democrats are saying this fight really comes down and hinges on healthcare, and they're not backing down. So, to start off the conversation, what do you make about the moment we're in right now?
I think I would normally say this is the tale as old as times. Democrats, Republicans can't come to a consensus. People see it as, government being ineffective. I think what's scary this time is that we have to remember the federal government is already significantly reduced. Remember, when Trump first came into office, he and Elon Musk made significant cuts to the federal government. So now we already have a handicapped federal government, and we have, this period where I think it's over a million workers are either being furloughed or basically working and not getting paid. And it doesn't seem like there's end in sight. And all you see is a Batman. There's this famous Superman meme where it's Superman's pointing at Superman and Spider-Man's pointing at Spider-Man and Spider-Man's pointing back. And the American public is the one that's really suffering during this time.
And if we can remember, Congress still gets paid during a government shutdown. Furloughed workers do not. And I want to talk about what the arguments are because I've had many conversations over the years about just a host of different issues. And usually I can see where there's some agreement at all. I'm not seeing any agreement when it comes to this one. There's a lot of daylight right now between Democrats and Republicans. Republicans are arguing that they voted to keep the government open. Democrats did not, and they're voting for a clean CR that Democrats have supported in the past. Democrats, on the other hand, are saying that they don't trust Republicans when Republicans say, hey, we are open to negotiating when it comes to health care just after the government reopens. They say that they don't believe them when it comes to that and that healthcare is too big of a deal right now to just give in. What do you make of these arguments?
So some of this is politics. I think last time I spoke to you, Chuck Schumer was under fire for basically avoiding a shutdown similar to this. And he got the brunt of a lot of angry Democrats. Democrats believe that when the people in power don't have the votes, then you know what? They should, come to the table and negotiate. We're not seeing that at all right now. And it's scary. And, I think that the American public is just so confused as to why can't people in government get it together. So I think, we are not the longest, this hasn't been the longest shutdown. I think the longest shutdown was 30 something days, but we're getting close. And there's no daylight, there's no conversation. It's just a blame game. Usually people start moving when there's, polls are showing that one party is getting blamed and another party is not. Everyone's equally getting blamed, the president, Democrats, and Republicans, but still it doesn't seem like they're coming to the table.
I think that's a really good point that we're not seeing any movement. I mean, I was looking at my notes right before the shutdown and then with various lawmakers and strategists during the shutdown, and it seems like they could be the exact same notes from day 1 to day 17 because you're not seeing much movement. And to your point about Chuck Schumer, like we talked about months ago, he bore a lot of the blame when he made that 180 switch. He said he wasn't going to vote for the CR to keep the government open. At the 11th hour, he did. A lot of Democrats felt betrayed by that. And even House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, when he was asked then if he had confidence in Schumer's leadership, he said next question, which got some laughs, but also was very revealing. Now the
Very.
two seem more in lockstep. What do you make of leadership right now?
Look, as someone who formerly worked in government, state government, it is scary when people are not receiving checks and when, agencies don't have money and programs are being shut down. I understand the need to fight for a cause, but there has to be lines of communication. Normally, people would pass, like I know in New York, we would pass like an appropriation bill just to let government run while people negotiate. If Republicans were being honest about that they do want to negotiate and healthcare is too important to put in this bill, then they would do a measure just to at least keep basic funding in line so government can operate while they negotiate the bigger issue of healthcare. I think the fact that that's not being discussed and is all or nothing in these negotiations show that no party is really being, I don't want to say honest, but they're not really showing their cards because there is a stopgap that can happen while people figure out the answers to the long-term, more complicated issues. But I think I think the Republicans feel they have Trump on their side, the president. And I think Democrats feel that healthcare and government workers is such a winning position to be in. Why give up that leverage?
And to that point, I mean, it doesn't really seem like there's any type of compromise because Democrats have said we're not budging until we talk about health care. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he posted on X a few hours ago essentially saying, I'm ready to negotiate at any time with Democrats when it comes to health care, but I'm not doing it if the government's essentially held hostage. He said he's not voting on this under duress. So there's really no compromise. But I'm wondering what Democrats, in your opinion, right now.
This is all messaging. This is messaging war. The Republicans are saying, hey, we'll talk about healthcare, but we want Americans to get back to work. Where the Democrats are saying, no, this is too important of an issue. We got to do it now. Everyone's trying to see what messaging is resonating with the American public. And the best messaging is probably going to, I don't know which one's the best. I was in DC this weekend. It's dead. Nobody's going, like, you can go to a restaurant, you don't even have to make reservations. People are scared and people are afraid and they don't have money. So it's going to be interesting. I think whoever moves first in terms of negotiation is because they're getting polling back, or the sentiment about who's to blame is intensifying. Right now, Americans are scared, but they're not like really, really feeling it unless you're one of the furloughed, impacted people. But once we hit a month, there's state agencies, that receive federal funding that won't have that federal funding, SNAP, WIC, things like that. Like, then people are going to start feeling it, and it'll be interesting to see how public sentiment changes.
To that point, I was going to ask you about messaging next, and there has been talk of, hey, once we hit Thanksgiving, people will feel this. Thanksgiving's over a month away. Thanksgiving is when we see the most travel in the year. So the fact that there's even a conversation of it being drawn out that long, it just goes to show that it doesn't look like this is ending anytime soon. But where do you think Democrats can improve their messaging? Because I feel like there's two sets of polling. One polling suggests that both parties are to blame for this government shutdown. The majority of Americans don't like a shutdown. Another poll out of Emerson College Polling, almost half of voters said the government shutdown's having no real impact on their life. 30% said a minor impact, 14% a major impact, 7% aren't sure. And to your point, as of right now, almost if you're not a furloughed worker, you can't really see the signs just yet. So how do you think Democrats can improve their messaging right now?
I think Democrats can improve their messaging by showing what they're fighting for. All we're hearing is it's about healthcare, subsidies and healthcare. Like, I think it's a credit for healthcare subsidies. But what does that mean? If Americans don't receive this credit, what is my health insurance premium going to be? And I think that's like real nuts and bolts, dollars and cents that people can see when they're doing their budget. Oh no, starting next month, let's say I pay $1,000 in insurance premium, it goes to $2,000 or it goes to $1,500. And with this affordability crisis that many people are complaining about, and us being possibly on the brink of recession, that's the type of conversation they should be having. It shouldn't be, oh, Republicans, you have to vote, you do it. Show us what you're fighting for and why it's important so people aren't getting paid and there isn't money coming to states.
And to that point, healthcare affects everyone in this country. It does not affect people based on party lines. Republicans see this, Democrats see this. A Republican who has been vocal about this is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a firebrand. She's usually lockstep with the Republican Party and with President Trump in particular. But she's been vocal about this issue, especially in the past few weeks. She's been saying that she thinks Trump's getting bad advice on the shutdown. She says that she doesn't, quote, think it's good advice that Republicans Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms, and she actually thinks it's going to be very bad for midterms. Do you think that this is an opportunity for Democrats to really seize on that and work with her on this when it comes to messaging, when it comes to saying, hey, we can be bipartisan when people care about healthcare? What do you make of that?
She's so, I don't want to say toxic, but because she's such a personality in the Republican Party, there may be hesitancy to work with her. But I think we have to remember this. When I forgot, was it the Big Beautiful Bill? When that was passed, a lot of the impact of it is happening after the midterms. So people don't understand what this means financially for them. I think health insurance and, not getting this, expiring credit, this is something that can show before the midterms. It's hitting people's pockets, and it's actually excellent messaging. They're not used. I feel they could do a little bit better in showing people. And this also requires the efforts of like local state electeds and governors to show the impact. I know Governor Hochul, New York, has been adamant and like outraged of all the impacts that are happening because of the shutdown. But I think the fact that Marjorie Taylor is just so outspoken about healthcare, if Schumer and Hakeem wanted to do this and use her as a talking head, why not? Because right now the only person that is suffering are Americans, and right now no one cares about this like partisan nonsense. Like, people care about their wallets, they care about their paychecks, their taxes, and right now it's this blame game, and I just think it's going to be detrimental for everybody.
And if people don't care now, if they're traveling in the next couple of months, and especially for Thanksgiving, and they miss Thanksgiving dinner because there's not enough workers at TSA or air traffic controllers, I mean, people are really going to be up in arms about that. I know that people have such a short-term memory when it comes to things that happen in politics. For government shutdowns, it's a big deal until it's not, and then people forget about, oh, when did that happen? Did that happen in this administration or last? Do you think it's going to be different this time, and do you think that this will impact the midterms at all?
I think it depends on how hard Trump pushes the Republicans. I think if Trump is, if the president is like, my way, no way, and like, we got to fight for this, and this goes to Thanksgiving. Let's say it goes to Christmas. You know what's really bad? When people don't have money to spend on Christmas gifts. If you're already struggling and you can't, because of whatever reason, whether because you're furloughed or you're not getting government assistance or for whatever reason, it's really going to hit the fan if we hit the holiday season and people don't have money, don't have access to services, don't have certain things. It's going to be problematic. I think if Trump rides the Republicans into this like battle, I think then it's going to be harmful. I think the Democrats see this as a winning strategy. It'd be interesting to see if they move away from it. I don't think they will, because right now they're trying to win back anything they can. They're not in power. The midterms are essential for basically the lifeline of Democrats. So if they're smart, they're gonna hold firm. Republicans, they're in power. They do have flexibility, and it's shown that the people in power, the party in power during shutdowns, usually get the blame. Right now, we're still in this phase where it's people aren't feeling it, but if it gets prolonged, I do think it's going to have a detrimental impact for Republicans.
And then when you look at the midterms, I just want to ask you about some polling in that. And as we see messaging when it comes to the shutdown and beyond, when you look at the congressional ballot, according to an Emerson College poll that just came out today, 44% of voters plan to vote for the Democratic candidate, 43% the Republican candidate, and 14 haven't made up their mind just yet. So there's a decent amount of votes on the table right now when it comes to undecideds, but Republicans and Democrats are neck and neck. And when I asked the pollster about the potential blue wave in the midterms, he didn't really seem too confident. And he said, you have to wonder why this overall disapproval of the administration, meaning the Trump administration, is not translating to votes for Democrats. What do you make of those numbers? As a Democrat, are you concerned? Talk to us about that.
I think, it's so funny because this morning I was having this conversation with a friend. I think Democrats are in crisis. They don't know as a party where they're at. Within the Democrats, you have the ultra left, you have the more moderate, and then right now it's just like the party is split. We're seeing this in a city level, we're seeing it on state level, and we're definitely seeing on federal level. The Democrats, they're normally more aligned. If you think back in 2010 to 2000, I don't know, 8, it was the Republican Party that was more fractured, where they had the Tea Party and then the more mainline Republicans. Democrats are having their own crisis within their party right now. And I think that's why, even though Trump is, you know, not polling the best, Democrats can't capitalize on it because Democrats as a party don't know where they're going, and they don't have firm messaging, and they're not united. Until there's a real conversation within the Democratic Party about where they're going and what their priorities are, there's no way they can take over the House or, even beat Trump, because there's no consensus. So that's why I think people are like, will they take over in the midterms? Will they win some seats? Right now, Democrats feel meh about the party and just meh in general.
And to that point, there have been conversations since the day after the election in 2024 about Democrats are in the wilderness. What is their message? Where do they go next? And we're still having them now, almost a year out. What do you think is the winning message then when it comes to Democrats?
I don't know, because I find that the Republicans have done a good job of making affordability and like bread and butter issues their winning strategy. Democrats, we care about foreign issues. We care about social issues. You know, the thing that everyone can agree on, we're not in agreement. Like Republicans, everyone can agree on we need more money, and that, our resources are scarce. Whereas Democrats, they're just so fractured. It's just like we all can't agree on the messaging. I don't know what the appropriate messaging is, but I do know whatever the messaging is, it has to be applicable to all Democrats, not certain groups of Democrats, not like the wealthier Democrats where they leave, some of the poorer Democrats, or like the more socially liberal Democrats, but then leave out the moderate Democrats. We have to find messaging in the middle for everybody. And I think that's just been such a struggle for the party. And it seems like it's been a struggle like the past like 4 years.
I mean, it's a conversation almost with, obviously without the government shutdown, but with messaging that you and I have had before. There's been many conversations like this that have been happening since the election. And as we see developments of where the Democrats are going and where this government shutdown is going, I hope you come back on and join me and we can talk about it. Shontell Smith, thank you so much. Per
Thank
usual, I
you.
always appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much.